We're live. Hey man, how's it going?
Oh, good, good. How are you?
Doing great. Very excited about today. Normally, we just have a live talk where we pick a topic and we have a discussion. But today is a special day because today we are announcing and releasing Dropbase AI. Uh, I'm super excited about this. Dropbase AI is the first internal tools building platform that is natively built with AI. So it's going to be a new kind of experience for building these kinds of tools. So anything from building dashboards, admin panels, back office tools, back end operations software really fast. And the way Dropbase works is that you can prompt it with natural language and we generate code. And this code is deeply aware of the context. It's deeply aware of the web framework that we built to build internal tools. And so the code that's generated, you can still view it, edit it, and then you can approve it. And once you commit the code, we just update the app instantly for you. And so it's a very nice and iterative process to build these kinds of apps. And this is built for developers. So obviously it's local first, self-hosted, it's Python based, it lives in your code base, and you can do CI/CD from day one. And best of all, it's free for developers. So I'm very excited about this.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things we can cover on this call is maybe a little bit of history, how we ended up adding that AI feature.
Sure, let's talk about
So,
that.
yeah, how was it? Like, why did we add that? Like, why weren't we happy with just the OG version of it?
Yeah, okay. So maybe if we've taken a step back, right? And you probably also have your perspective on this. If you take a step back, we've tried using other no code, low code tools to try to build apps like this. Obviously, you can build them custom from scratch. And one of the frustrations that I personally had, and the frustration that I hear when I talk to developers, is that using the existing tools, it's kind of like very easy to get started. You can drop a few components, but you're kind of constrained in their UI to be able to build the logic for your application. And so what that means is that the learning curve for the existing tools, it's quite big, right? And so with that context, we kind of set out to initially try to build a better tool. Um, and then over time, we realized that, oh, the learning curve would also be high with our own product. Uh, and so we were trying to find different ways to try to make this work so that we can deliver on the promise of a new kind of internal tools builder that combine the very easy to use, very convenient, very low learning curve, but also it could do what you want it to do. And so I think that's when we're like, hey, AI, this is kind of like, and funny thing, actually, I was talking to a founder recently about the launch of Dropbase AI, and and his message to me was, "Oh, so are you pivoting into AI?" Smiley face, and I said, "Who isn't?" But that's a context, so maybe you can take it from there.
Yeah. Uh, I think it's exactly that. So the biggest objective was the learning curve. That was quite painful to learn. We wanted it to do everything for everyone. We made it like super flexible, uh, while still keeping some constraints and trying to keep the concepts to minimum. But when you're building framework from scratch, you inevitably end up bringing some new ideas that are like maybe not kosher in the industry, because we had to merge client and the backend into like one thing. So you only write Python and then somehow you have like the client side built as well. And then we added this concept of state and context. Uh, and I remember it took me a while to explain to the team what each object is and what it's used for. And then we're like, yeah, it's just going to be too much.
I think it was
But then we're like,
also hard to, like, one of the metrics of learning curves for a new product is how easy or hard is it to write documentation for it. So like if you're writing user documentation or developer documentation, you can tell that things kind of start getting out of control when you have to explain a concept or multiple concepts. So that's one category. Or you have to explain one concept, but it has many exceptions to it. It's like you can do something, but it doesn't work when you do this, and it doesn't work when you do that. And so that's when you know that you're starting to add a learning curve into your product. And this is what we felt internally as we were building this product. This was before adding the AI features into it. And so it was just getting kind of overwhelming as we tested internally, as we built with our own product. It's like, yeah, I think we're kind of going down the same path as any other tool that just becomes really hard to learn how to use.
Wait, so are you claiming that with adding this new AI tool, it's suddenly documentation is easier?
Not the documentation. I think documentation is well, it's definitely you don't have to explain as much because with the AI features, especially the way we implemented it, we are writing code for you in the right places, and you can inspect the code, right? And so just by the process of playing around with the prompts, you discover how to use the tool because we'll generate code in the right places. You can see it, and you're like, oh, okay. So if I need to pull data into a table, it just adds code into your get method. Oh, okay. Probably that's where I have to do it. Or if I click on a button and I want to trigger a user message, then I have to use the context. And so we don't have to explain all those concepts. I guess we could still write them, but a developer doesn't have to read through all of it to start using the product very quickly.
Yeah, I think this is one of the unexpected benefits of using AI is that you can get started very quickly. Like you can literally set up the whole thing in like 5 minutes and have your app. Uh, and then it will do the basic and maybe even medium to advanced use cases for you. But the second you see some apps running already, it's very easy to inspect the code and understand how it works. And then when you need like a bit more complicated cases, you can go to documentation and then learn. But at least everything already fits. You have a UI and you have a logic that already works. And now you just need to modify it. And I think as developers, we like that part where you have like a starting point and then you can just build it up. Reminds me a little bit of Mario game. Remember the OG Mario game? Has the best onboarding experience of any app or game I've ever seen. Because at the very beginning, you start at the bottom left side of the screen. You cannot move anywhere else but forward, which is towards right. And then there are only two buttons: jump and like I don't know, punch out. I don't know what that is. And that's it. Like within 10 seconds, you learn how to navigate the game.
Yeah,
And
that's a really relevant analogy. I guess I'd love for all developer tools or all tools used in business to have that kind of learning curve. Um, I think you can achieve this without AI, but I think for developer tools specifically, it's such a huge boost to have access to GPT models to be able to do this. And I think for documentation, I think we can also maybe make that part of the system where we can ask it questions about documentation. I know there's some challenges in trying to build those kinds of tools. There's still hallucinations, or GPT would make things up, uh, but it's still a huge help to be able to just navigate documentation because that part is just it's tedious, it's boring, it's time consuming, and I think a lot of the times for documentation, you kind of need it once, you use it once, and then you kind of don't need it, right? And so for those, it seems like a waste to spend a lot of time going through the entire documentation to build one integration or one trigger in one app.
that's a product right there. Someone's got to build it.
Yeah, I think we will have to
Keep
build
up.
it. We'll have to build it to be able to talk to any integration out there.
Um, Another interesting feature of Dropbase, it's self-hosted and source available. What was behind this decision?
Yeah, the very first version of Dropbase. I don't know if you remember, but we share it with some friends, and their first question was, "Can I have this in my infra?" Right? Because you're expecting this tool to talk to my databases and have access to my keys. Um, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that, and I think that's a natural reaction. And I think especially today with all the data needed to train models, people want to make sure that their data stays under control, until they need to use it for like training or other reasons. Uh, but it's still about having control. So having source available, you can inspect what the code is doing. You can modify the code to suit your needs, and you can deploy everything in your infra. So you can control where it goes, what queries what, and where your credentials are handled and stored. So those are at least some of the reasons. Did I miss anything?
No, I think those are I think those are all the valid reasons. Also, from as a developer, I'd like to add that this is our first time properly open sourcing our entire code base. It comes with the two nuances. First is obviously this lingering thread of someone just commercializing your work without you knowing it, and um, it happened before in the industry. So, but that's the risk you take every time you starting open source project or like open sourcing your work. And the second, it's more like as a developer. I've been talking to many developers of open source projects, and one of the recurring themes that I observe, they always say, "Don't judge me too much." Like every time they show their code, like, "Oh yeah, this is a little patch. Don't judge me." "Oh yeah, this is a little function that I wrote. I know it's a bit ugly, but it's okay. It just does the work. I'll refactor it." And I always found it a bit, just found it interesting. Like, why would people have reactions like that? But now that we're open sourcing our code base, I also feel like adding some don't judge me. So that's like another interesting nuance of open sourcing, at least the experience of it. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see the contributions, the feedbacks, the issues that people open.
Yeah, I think it's still the benefits really outweigh the cause or the risk. I think for these kinds of tools, developers want to know what it's doing, especially if it interacts with your important backend systems or your data sources. And I think the product just gets more eyes. I think we can share the excitement of it, also get feedback from the community, and just improve the product. So that's really neat. So
Well, well, why don't you explain our license? Why are licenses so weird?
yeah, we just haven't figured out what's the best licensing strategy, and we're just optimizing to get this out first. Um, so the licensing that we have today, it's a drop-based licensing, drop-based custom drop-based license. And this license it lets any person, any developer, just download the product, install it, clone it, fork it, modify it, and do anything they want with the product for their own use cases within their teams. They can just use the product any way they see fit. Really, the main thing that this license has is just don't build a cloud service that takes our code and just like monetizes or commercializes our product. Um, and I think that's really the main thing, right? Yeah, it's really it's like, okay, well, what can we come up with so that we can just launch this product first, and then with the feedback from the community, um, go with the right open sourcing strategy, the right licensing. This is very new to us as well. This is the first open source project that we've launched, and so we just want to proceed carefully. But that's the idea behind this.
So if you wanna use it like for your home project or like on your own local machine, by all means, you feel free to clone, fork, modify, and then use it for your personal projects. It's just like any other license. We're just trying to protect ourselves from this third party. How do you even call them?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think just it's a cautious uh, cautious approach. But I think our default and our goal is to figure out the best strategy to open source it with the right with a license that it's just more open, that people can use. And then I think in the future we'll introduce. I think we'll have like a dual licensing strategy where we have like some core features open and free, and then obviously if you're using the product for your company to run a business, and you have like many teammates that want to use a product, then we'll commercialize some of those features, um, with maybe with a different commercial license. So all the stuff still to figure out. We're learning and discussing as we go with this. So I think we'll have updates in the near future about what the licensing strategy will be. So two things I want to do. So first, I want to talk about some of our favorite features in the product, and then we're gonna switch into doing a live demo. So we can just do a demo that we've prepared, um, and then we can just try and experiment with some uh, other runs at the product, see how much we can battle test it live. And then at the end, we want to talk a little bit about system architecture, file system, and how it works behind the scenes. So I will ask you, what are your favorite features? What are you like most excited about for this product?
So I'm not gonna talk about the obvious feature, which is our AI prompt feature. Um, Maybe I can highlight two pieces that I think are interesting. First one is tester. So essentially, we have a studio where you can write a code, and then from there you can test the code. There's a little like a little section at the bottom where you can write your function and then invoke it. The inspiration for that part was Jupyter Notebook. I'm a big fan of Jupyter Notebook in general. All my features start in Jupyter. Um, and I like this flexibility of just being able to click play button and then execute that one cell. And I wanted to bring some of that magic into Dropbase. Uh, but our case is a little bit complicated because we cannot use the whole kernel because we want our workers to be light. But at the same time, we wanted to bring all this traceback, STD outs, um, all these nice features that Jupyter Notebook provides. And finally, we needed that tester to be tightly integrated with our UI. So if you return a context that modifies mm, some of the components, it should be reflected on your UI page, like in React, as opposed to just like response as STD out in your uh, in your logs. So that took a while to figure out. I think we have a pretty decent version of it. There's still some improvements that could be made, mostly around just the developer experience, more like the placements of components. But functionally, it works. It works well. So I'm quite proud of that feature. And the second part, which is also a bit technical, I'm quite excited about our state and context objects. Essentially, state is the object that stores all the states of components within the page as user interacts with it. So selected row, input values, or whatnot. And then the context allows you to modify UI from your backend functions. Uh, and that took a while to figure out as well. I was maybe at least 5 or 6 different iterations of those objects, but now we have pretty decent versions of them. And with the help of those two components, the whole structure, the way you write your functions is just so much simpler. Like not only uh, everything that you need to write functional method uh, is within those two objects, but also we give you autocomplete because those are class-based components. So yeah, those are my two favorite bit technical features. What about you?
Those are pretty good. Well, I guess I can't say those. So I would say, on the AI topic. So you know how a lot of the tools out there, when they add an AI feature, it's almost like this very kind of thin layer of AI on top of their product. So they'll maybe generate one function at a time, and then either you like copy and paste that function into like a query or something, or it'll have like a SQL editor that generates a SQL that you use to fetch data from your database, and then you bind that to your components. um, and so that approach of AI, it just doesn't really use AI in the best way possible for those products. And so what I like about our approach to an AI tools builder is that we actually generate all of the code that you need uh, to power the app itself. So right now it's on a page by page level, but for that whole page, you can modify the behavior of your app fully with code. But we can obviously generate the entire file and make changes across the entire file. So the kind of precision and control you have uh, as to what you want to modify, it's available for you. But the whole app could be generated if you needed it to be. And so I like our approach to implementing AI features because it just feels more native. It just feels more deeply integrated between the web framework and the GPT capabilities. So that's something I'm like. It's one of my favorite features or approaches to this product. Um, there's a couple other things. I like the fact that Dropbase can live in your code base. So if you have an existing uh, code base backend, uh, especially if it's with Python, you can sort of install a Dropbase and then reuse a lot of your existing libraries or any custom helpers that you've built. So, like if you have a Django backend, you can still integrate Dropbase and just make those Django ORM calls directly. And the last thing I'd say is the flexibility. Um, so one thing I don't like when I use other tools is when I have to wait for the developers of the tool to create an integration for me so I can achieve a certain outcome. At the same time, I don't want to build the whole thing by myself, right? So then there's the balance that I think it's really neat. So with Dropbase, you can basically import any PyPI package. You can bring any library. You can basically get any SDK in there, Python SDK. And so anything you want, you can have. You can have pandas. It's already there. But if I want to use the Stripe SDK, I can use it. If I want to use any other third party provider that has an API or a Python SDK, then I can build an integration to it very quickly. And so those are the things that I absolutely love about what the product can do, aside from all the other stuff that we've talked about. It's quite special and quite unique way to build like this kind of product.
Yeah, to add to that, I think when we decided to add AI feature, we actually went back and redesigned the product. And it took us like 2 or 3 weeks of like actually rewriting the logic. Luckily, all the key pieces were already there, but we still had to like condense the complexity of each application from multiple files into 2 files. And then those 2 files, we had to structure them in a way that GPT can easily modify them without being confused. So it was a lot of generalization, a lot of refactoring, but in the end, the results is feels quite magical. Like every time I'm using it, I'm like, oh snap,
It's
you got
yeah,
that.
it's straight up magic. I think yeah. So I think there's this beauty in the having this web framework that works very well with GPTs. It's kind of like the two things. The framework definitely evolves to make use of the GPT features. So in fact, one of the ways that we redesigned and the way that we architect for future features is we basically say if we make this design decision, will it work better or worse with GPT? Basically, will GPT be able to work with this in a simpler way or not? And we managed to actually uh, achieve the outcomes or the features, the magic in this product with a relatively small context window. We're not passing an entire web framework into the context. We're passing just enough information uh, that GPT can use to basically do anything with the framework, but still keep the context windows fairly limited, I think relatively limited compared to what you would do for a product like this, which is to basically dump the entire code base into it. So maybe we can uh, do some live demos. So I'll share my screen. We can do demos. If you have anything you want to share, you can do that. And then we can just briefly chat about the structure of the files, the architecture, and just point some interesting things about the product. So let me quickly share my screen here. See if I can find it. Do you see my
Yes.
browser here?
Yes.
All right.
It's a bit cropped. Is that the way it should be? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really. Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing really anything at scale. Maybe can you see it like this?
Yeah, it works. It's
Okay.
okay
So the
like
funny
that.
thing is, I can only see my screen and I can't see everything else. So hopefully, uh,
You look good.
so
Don't worry.
if you need me to stop or if you need to react to something, just yell it and I'll stop. Um, okay. So maybe I'll quickly show the pre-built demo that ships with your clean install of Dropbase. Oh, that is not good, is it? Maybe just create a new app then. Let's call this customer orders.
Wait, is your thing running?
Oh, yeah, actually, let me just restart my server. That's what's happening. Just give me 1 second.
Man, this is like a demos every time.
Okay, I'll give it one more try with this demo environment. If it doesn't work, we'll just like switch to you. So I restarted my server. Oh, okay, yeah. So I just had to restart the server. So first, quick look. It's a local host, so this is locally deployed, and this is how the app looks like. Uh, so you have a table here where you can add rows, you can edit data here, you can delete rows, or you can trigger actions and send messages to Slack or anywhere else you want. So let's edit this app so that we can take a look inside. Quick note: I think there's some background noise on your end. Maybe you can mute yourself. Okay, so as you can see, this app contains two files. So a UI file that declares and describes the UI for the app. So we have a few components. We have the tables and we have widgets, and then inside tables we have columns, and inside widgets we have buttons or other UI components. And the main logic for the functions is here. So you can see there's a get method that you can use to fetch data into these tables. There's an add method that implements add rows. And then we have an update method that allows you to make cell edits, column edits here. And then a delete method for this one to basically delete a row from this data source. And then in the widgets, we have a button. And when you click on this button, widgets trigger a message that says hello. So good job. So this is the basic demo app. What I want to do is actually show you in real life how to build a new app. So I've started a new app called Customer Orders. And what we can do is we can hit this AI def or Command K, and we start describing the UI that we want. So you can add it any way you want. Usually I like to add a short list so I can have multiple commands at the same time. So you can say something like rename or relabel table one as customers, and then you can say add a new table, label as orders. And you can start adding a bunch of different components like this. But just to see how that looks like, you can hit generate code. This will make a call to an LLM. Currently, we work with OpenAI's GPT-4o. And so you get two tables. Then you can drag and drop to adjust the size of the tables, and you preview. And you have your app start to build this way. You have two tables. And so let's add some more components here. Maybe we want to add a little search bar to table one. So you can say a search input to the header of table one. And then let's just do another one. Let's add a button to the widget, label as send message. So we generate the UI code, and you see how the components are just placed in the right places. So as you can see, if we preview, just quick refresh. So there's the table, there's the type to search. Notice how there's a name for the input, and there's a placeholder as well, and then a send message button. And so this is how the UI will look like. What we can do now is add some logic, some behavior to this. So usually what I like to do is I like to populate my app with data and data sources first. So you can do that all at once as well. So you can either type SQL directly, or you can describe what you want. SQL is more precise if you know exactly what you want. So I can say select everything from users into table one, use my demo DB, and then you can say select everything from orders into table two, and then use my demo DB. So when I generate code, you will first see a preview of the code. So we won't commit this right away. So this gives you a bit of control, and I think it also helps you learn where the code has been added. So here you see that select everything from users is added to the get method in your table class. And then if you scroll down to the other table, table two, you have another get method for select orders. And notice how we return context, which basically contains a data frame with the data pulled from your demo database. So Dropbase has context and is aware of the data sources. So obviously you can add any data source behind the scenes. We'll show you how to do that, but you can add it in your worker and server config files, TOML files. You can add all your sources in there. Once you approve the changes, we'll immediately run this, and notice how data is populated in here. You can save columns and preview. So your app's starting to look good. You have data that's populated here and here. And so you can proceed with building other behaviors in your app. So a few things that you might want to do is usually you want to perform a search. And sometimes you also want to filter tables based on other tables. So if I click on this row here, I want to filter this table. And if I search here, I want to filter this table. So you can achieve that as well by just prompting your way into it. So to keep things simple, I'm just going to start with when a user selects a row in table one, filter table two based on user ID, which is the column that is common between the two tables. And you can generate code, and we can start seeing where the code gets added, and then we can preview the behavior that it achieves. And obviously, in this demo, I'm doing one action at a time, so we can focus on it. But you are also able to just put multiple behaviors, and we'll update the files accordingly. So I'm expecting an on-row change method here to be implemented. So it says select the user ID, and that's coming from the state table one. So you select a row, it grabs the user ID, and then it queries the orders table using that user ID. So this code looks good. Obviously, you can edit it if it's wrong or if you want to add some custom behavior. But if it works for you, you can just approve changes. It gets immediately made here. Code is updated. You can preview it, and you can basically select a row, and then it'll filter the user ID in the second table. So that's pretty cool. This is very useful. You can have multiple tables, and as you like find a customer, you can find all their orders, and this is pretty neat to be able to do. Um, and let me take a step back here, Ayajan. Any questions before I continue on with this?
No, I think it's good. I think it's good.
Should we implement search, or should we implement the just the send message to finalize the demo? How are we on time?
Uh, I think we still have like 25 minutes, so we're good. We can implement. Can you show maybe how to edit table?
Sure. So let's say that we wanted to update a user email here. All we have to do is implement updates for this table. So we can try that and say implement update on table 1. Which column? It's just email, right?
Yeah, you can say using user ID as a key.
Implement update on table 1. Let's see. Use user ID as row key. All columns? This will probably do it on all columns.
Yeah, it's good.
Sure.
GPT slowed down, eh?
Yep. It's not usually this low, but when you're doing demos, everything is for grabs. Okay, so we have connecting for updates. It's looking at all the values here. Update set, if it's username, update set. And then for timestamps, we have some extra handling. If some of the code that's generated is not really useful or not relevant, we see a developer can here delete it. So that's it. I think it looks good. I'm going to just try to edit emails and see what's up. So let's approve changes. Now these columns are editable. So let's say I want to make email editable. I can just toggle it. And then let's preview this app. So I can change this to Bob Jones at dropbase.io. Hit enter, and moment of truth. Let's update it. Boom, that's great. So just like that, you can achieve cell edits across any table. You can implement it for any column and any table here in your canvas. Okay, so actually wasn't expecting to demo updates, but that's actually really nice. So you can demo you can build basically all CRUDs for tables this way. So I'm not going to do this, but you can say implement add row methods, or you can implement delete rows method, and it'll do it for you. So it'll do it similar to what we have in the demo app. Actually, I want to show maybe how to do search. Search is a very interesting one. It's pretty cool. So for search, we can say when a user submits values in the search input, filter table 1 with that value. For any of table 1 columns. So usually when you search, you want to make sure that you can catch substrings, allow substrings, and case insensitive. Just makes it a little bit easier so that you can just type, like for Jane, you can just type JA or NE, and then you'll still be able to do the search. And if a user clears value in the search input just return all rows. Okay, so I'm just gonna generate code, and then we can preview the code, see if it's achieved what we want. Indeed slow. 10 a.m. is probably peak GPT time, when all the workers are doing work. Okay, so let me see. Where is here? Okay, so we highlighted where the code changes is made. So it's correctly identifies search input from the state. It's connecting to the same database. It's running the query, and um, and if we clear values, then it just selects everything from users and return context. This actually looks good, so I'm just going to go ahead and commit it, and we're going to try it. So what should I search? Let's do Joe. Boom. Okay, so I can implement search, and it should work across any of the columns. So I can also do Dropbase, and it should show me one row. Perfect. Or I can do drop. Maybe it still show me that one row. Okay, and then I can click on this customer, get all the orders associated with that customer, and finally we can just trigger a message. Right? We can send a message, and we can implement that. There's
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Sorry, before you go there, can you show the query for select customers? So, yeah, people asking, how do we do joins? So on line 17, you see the query, db.query.
Yeah.
Can you highlight that part? Yeah, I just wanna know that here you can pass any query you want. In this case, it's just the very basic select star from query, but your query could be more complicated. So it could be something like select everything from users, inner join orders on order ID, group by, I don't know, product ID or something like that. And then
Yeah,
select
that's
certain.
that's right. So whatever you can do in SQL, you can do here. Obviously, you need to understand the data model, data schemas of your database to be able to run a complicated join. But basically, anything you would normally do in your products backend or via data grip or other database consoles, you can do it here, and it will pull in the data for you as well. Any other questions?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, let's just finish wrap up by implementing send message. Uh, if that's okay? Okay, well, I'll take that as a yes. Send
Oh,
message.
sorry. Yes. I'm
So
nodding. I forgot you can see.
yeah, no, I can't see you. Sorry. So let's do. So I can't share. I'm just sharing this one window. Uh, so let's see if I can just pass a message, I suppose. Let me see if I can share my entire screen. Okay, let me just implement the function first. When a user clicks on send on the send message button, uh, pass the customer data in the selected row in table 1 as a Slack message. And here you can, it could be a Slack message, or it could be via an email if you've connected your SendGrid accounts, or if you've connected your Mailgun account, or it could just pass a user message. And so when a user clicks on send message button, pass customer data selected row table 1 as a Slack message. I can generate code. Okay, let's just review. code here. So component send message on click. It's grabbing the columns from table 1, so that's accurate. It's composing the message here, and then it's just sending a Slack webhook. It's just adding some um, basically some error catching here. But the code looks good, so I can approve change and I can test it. Now, I currently only sharing my sharing only this window, so you won't see it. But let me reshare the correct window here. I'm just going to share my entire screen briefly to be able to demo this. Entire screen. How do I do this? Oh, there. Okay, let me know if you can see the infinite mirrors that I've created because of this issue. So now let's preview the app. And so we can just select this person, and then we can trigger Slack message, and I've already connected it. So it should just pass all that information, Bob, into a Slack. And if I click on Diana, just close this, I can do that again. And it's going to be sent from Slack. And this is magic. So obviously you can program these buttons to interact with basically any third-party service, any API, basically anything that you've added your keys or data sources for. So that's Dropbase. That's the demo. We're very excited about what you can do, what you can build with the product. So give it a try. We have instructions and documentation on how to set it up. In fact, Ayajan, you recorded a video that's maybe 5 minutes long, where it shows you how you can do the entire setup locally in your machine by just following those instructions. And so the last thing, we still have some time now that I can see the clock. Let's briefly talk about the architecture. What's happening with all these files? Where are they stored? And what's sort of the data model that we use for this? And maybe you can share your screen and just make sure that there's no keys or anything flash, because then we have to go back and rotate everything. So I'll leave it to you to share your screen and just walk us through the structure of a workspace and the files.
You can only share one screen at a time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay. Let me find my window. Do you see my screen?
Yep.
This is just a VS Code, right?
Yeah, I can see VS Code.
All right, perfect. So this is the repository that you want clone to set it up locally. The instructions are here. All you really need is Docker. We use Docker Compose, and then we use it to spin up the following images. So it consists of 4 Docker images. One of them would be your client, is whatever you interact with in browser. One of them is going to be server, is whatever processes all the requests sent by client. And it does some additional magic. Then one of them is going to be LSP, which is language. I don't know what it stands for.
Language Service Protocol.
Language Service Protocol, yeah. So this one will provide you with a autocomplete, suggestions, whatnot in your studio mode. And the last one is going to be your worker. But worker is going to be composed locally using this Docker image. So essentially what this worker does, it executes your functions. And before, let me quickly cover where you can find your functions and all your files. So each app is, I'm going to show you a demo because this is the one that you'll have. Each app is just a folder inside of your workspace folder. So in this case, I have one app called demo, and it has like one page. This time it's called page 1. And inside of page 1, we have 2 files that define this entire page. One file is called properties.json. This file describes which components go onto that page and how they should be displayed, how they should behave. And then main.py describes the logic, the functionality of that page. So for example, we have two classes. One is for table and one is for widget. And then earlier, Jim showed you how to implement this get method for this table. So in this case, we have table one, which has its own class called table one, and it has the following columns. Now, the way data is being populated for this table is through a get method. Then we also have add. This is to add column, sorry, add row, update to update the data, delete row or whatnot, and then on row change. So this method come pre-built, so you should not modify them, like the signature and the names. And you shouldn't delete them either because the application might break. But you feel free to add any additional ones. So for example, if you want to have something like my helper that you want to reuse inside, you can totally do that. And then you can just reuse that from inside. Just don't delete these, the OG ones. So each component, like we call them parent component. Anything that you define in your UI has the class associated with it. So we also have widget, and widget has a component. In this case, it's just a button. And then, so we have widget class, which is for parent, and then implemented this method, which is component button one on click, and then just shows you a message. So this is the structure. So this main.py, which is the logic, is being executed inside of this worker, inside of this Docker container. And we build this Docker container locally every time because we want to provide you with flexibility. So for example, there's some pre-built requirements that we need to run this Docker, but you can also add your own custom requirements, your own packages. Maybe you're in finance and you need some trading package, or maybe you are like scraping web and you need like, I don't know, beautiful soup or whatnot. So you can add any packages you want here, and then they'll be available in your worker, so you can import them from this code base. So this is roughly the structure. It also, each page also comes with a state and context objects. We define them as Pydantic classes. You don't have to worry about this. You don't need to touch it because every time you add a component or modify a component, these files will be regenerated. So just you can look at them, you can see how it works, but don't modify them. Yeah, so this is the overall architecture and structure. We have server and TOML. This is where you define all your credentials. I'm not going to show server, but I'm going to show you worker. So worker, server has all the Stripe. Okay, this is we need to redo our Stripe, man.
Okay, we'll rotate those, and also the dev. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm gonna. I'll show this. It's okay. And then this database, yeah. So this is a worker. This is how you define databases, right? So anything that you define here, all the environmental variables, they will be available to you in your functions. So for example, here I have a database like SQLite, which points to this file, right? So to query that, I'm just adding environmental variable, like I'm defining a database of type SQLite, and I'm giving it nickname demo. Now, once I define this, I can now connect to that source just by nickname and just run query. It's all described in documentation. Just here, I just want to highlight how it works. What else? I think the last bit that I wanted to show is a bit more advanced, but okay, I cannot show you the inside. But what you can do is you can actually mount additional directories into your worker. So just like here, the volumes inside your server, there is a argument. There's a variable called host mount, which is a list of strings, and then you can pass absolute. You can add absolute path to directories that you want to mount, and then those directories are also going to be available for you in your functions. So here you can do something like from my directory import like a helper function, and then you can just reuse it here. And this could be a directory, maybe like your Django directory or whatnot. So yeah, this is the overall architecture. Anything else you want me to cover?
No, I think that's pretty good, and I think we're ready to wrap this up as well. We have just a few minutes left, and so this is great. So we were able to show a demo of the product, how you can use it to build apps, how the apps look like, what kind of flexibility you have, and the developer experience as you are building your app, and also a little bit of an understanding for the file structure, how you can add your own credentials, how you can add your custom libraries and import additional requirements that you might need to run your apps. And so that's really everything we had for today. Um, we will be online. So we also just launched on Product Hunt today. So you can check us out, Product Hunt, and one of the feature launches of today. We have a Discord server where we can support developers, and we're building a community there. And obviously, we have a GitHub repo. You can check us out there. And documentation is at docs.dropbase.io. So that's everything. Thank you very much. We'd love to see what you build with this. Reach out if you have questions, if you have feedback. Yeah, happy building.